Welcome back, friends, to another Dissidia Final Fantasy Opera Omnia video. Lids87 here, and in today's video, we're going to be talking about Layle to see how worthy he is of your tickets and or gems. Before I do get into it, please remember to hit that like and subscribe button as it does help out the channel. Now, Layle is going to be making a comeback with an LD weapon, a burst weapon, and a rework. Layle in Opera Omnia is a magic utility type character, and when I say utility, I'm talking about he has the capabilities to launch the enemies, henceforth known as Yeet. He can delay his enemies, and he can brave battery your party members. If you're a little bit of a newer player, you might hear other terms. You might hear launch, you might see knockback, or you might see chase. Just keep in mind that these are all the same thing, that any of these, whenever you initiate a launch, you will yeet the enemy up into the air. So just throwing that out there for my newer players. Now when it comes to using Layle, first and foremost, when it comes to his boards, passively, he's going to give your party members plus 30% brave and HP damage dealt during a yeet sequence, so it's only natural he receives this as his kit revolves around yeeting enemies. The way you're going to be using Layle is that you're going to be applying force, and it's going to be that much easier to yeet the enemies. Not yet, I blame autocorrect. Now, something that Layle is going to be receiving is that whenever he attacks enemies inflicted with that force debuff, he will do more weakness brave damage towards those enemies by 50%, so he's going to be hitting harder. His second ability, Energy Gain, this will delay the target, and with Energy Gain, it's easier to yeet his enemy. He does have some generic buffs built into his kit, the first one being with his first ability, Field Burst, will grant him a 50% max brave up. Energy Gain, his second ability, will grant him plus 40% magic attack up. His first ability, Field Burst, will inflict 2 debuffs, the first one being a 30% speed down, the second one being his Framed Force, debuff for 10 turns, and force what that does, it's going to be easier to yeet that enemy. He does grant himself a buff with his EX ability, Guy Balg, Clavashian Heart, I believe it's called, for 5 turns, and it's going to increase your party's max brave and attack by 40%, and it's going to be easier to yeet the enemies. With his LD weapon, the LD ability, Geo Impact, he will have 4 uses of this. This is magic, brave, AoE hits, followed by AoE HP attack, triggered 2 times. This will ready the enemies to be yeeted. He will move his next turn. Layle will move his next turn next to a selected party member. This will initiate a yeet sequence, and he will grant himself a brand new special effect called Shining Cheek for 9 turns. What this is going to do for Layle, this is going to increase his attack by 50%, increase his stolen max brave overflow by 20%, brave regen by 20% of max brave, recovers brave to party by 10% of HP damage dealt at the end of the turn, and whenever Layle initiates a yeet sequence, the allies will join in regardless of the turn order. For example, if another character initiates a yeet sequence and the enemy's frame is in front of your party members in the turn order, your allies will not join in. Layle, as long as he has this special effect up, those allies will join in regardless how many enemies' turn orders are in front of them. With his LD boards, this will increase the brave hits done by his LD ability by 2. His LD ability will not inflict force on his enemies, and after using his LD ability, his HP attack will upgrade to HP attack, Geo Impact, which will brave heal the party members by 20% of max brave. This will do damage, yeet the enemies, and this will revert back to its previous state. When it comes to his call actions, his initial call action, Energy Gain Call, just comes in, delays the enemy, and easier to initiate a yeet sequence. Nothing for the caller in terms of caller effect. With his LD ability, there is a caller effect, Geo Impact Call, for 3 turns. This is going to increase the caller's attack and stolen max brave overflow by 20% and give them a brave regen effect by 20% of max brave. But I will say that we have much better LD call effects in the game. His burst weapon, the big finale for 5 turns, this is party-wide. Guess what, guys? Hey, guess what? Have you guessed it yet? It's going to be easier to yeet the enemies. Oh man, that's very exciting. This will increase the HP damage cap by 20%, and after an HP attack, this will recover brave by 10% of HP damage dealt once per turn. Now, there is going to be a slight change with the Worthiness, alright? It is time to get serious. On my previous video, I did pin a comment asking some viewers if they would like for me to be harsher on my judgment on some of these characters, and players said yes. Now, the reason why I asked that question is because we are about 2.5 months away from the Lufenia Plus era, so I seriously believe now is a good time to start saving. At this point in the game, we have so many viable units So I believe that now is a good time for my judgments to be harsher on these characters, because I believe that we should be looking now at this point for characters that are either A, going to be making a comeback in the Lufenia Plus era with their Burst Plus or Crystal level 90s, or maybe help out during the beginning portions, or saying that look into some of these pre-Lufenia Plus characters that will help you in the beginning of the Lufenia Plus era. Because when Lufenia Plus first came out on the JP side of the game, it was not received well by a lot of players. It was hard. You had to have very specific units in the beginning, but I do believe that the global side of the game, we're going to experiment a lot more with some of these team compositions. So I believe it'll be different, but due to Lufenia Plus approaching, I do believe that we should pick out some of these other characters. So I hope I can influence you or help you reach a decision on which of these characters you should pick for the Lufenia Plus era. All right, so when it comes to the worthiness, how worthy is Layle of your resources? Now, when it comes to his LD, I'm going to say somewhat worthy of your resources, and his burst shy of somewhat worthy, possibly even skipping out his burst weapon, because we do have better burst effects in the game that will increase your party's brave damage, HP damage that they deal, or even HP damage caps. So if you already have some of those units, you don't need Layle on your team composition. I will say that there are going to be free multi-draws on these banners, so it's possible you could pick up his gear for free. Now, I will say this, though, that if you do not like, if you find Chase team compositions boring, or if you don't have units like Kais, Ramza, Cloud, Dark Knight Cecil, don't go for Layle. Just, will he work fine on his own? Yeah, of course he will. But he will do that much more better with some of these other team units on your composition. If you have some of those units, like specifically Kais, he will be a beautiful addition onto your team. Let's say you have some of these other chase initiators, but you couldn't get Layle. A Layle friend support with his burst weapon is going to severely increase the damage that you can deal, because as you guys saw with this burst effect, first and foremost being easier to eat the enemies, increases the HP damage cap, and also after every HP attack recovers Brave by 10% of HP damage dealt. His best friend is going to be Kais with his LDD buff, Brave League, which is going to refund Brave to your party members based on HP damage dealt. You're going to be dealing a lot of damage during your own burst mode. You're going to be dealing a lot of damage when you go into your Pandemonium summons, chunking out a huge portion of HP from the bosses. All right, friends, so that is where I'm going to leave the judgment for Layle. Does he repeat later down the line? He has yet to repeat on the JP side of the game, but when he does come back, he will receive a Burst Plus and a Crystal level 90. So I strongly believe he will become powerful again, as on the JP side of the game, or a lot of players know, there is another very strong chase unit called Sid Reigns that I believe they will go beautifully together. All right, friends, so at the end of the day, his LD is somewhat worthy of your resources. Burst just shy, somewhat worthy, possibly even skipping, unless you like chase compositions. Again, friends, I have to throw this out there. Just because I'm harsher on these units, this does not mean they're bad, okay, friends? They will work beautifully on your team compositions, but I am trying to help you make a decision, or we're trying to find some of these other characters that are going to help you during the beginning of the Lufenia Plus era. All right, friends, so that is it for this video, friends. I want to thank you guys for joining me on my How Worthy Plus, we're going to call it. Be sure to let me know down below in the comments, first and foremost, what you guys believe of my harsher judgments. Was I too harsh on Layle? Do you guys like this, especially if you're a newer player, or even some of my OG viewers? Me personally, I'm probably just going to do the free multi-draws, and that's it. I'm personally not a fan of chase compositions in the game. I do find it kind of boring, although you could definitely rush down a bunch of bosses, especially if they're not resistant to chase, or you initiate a chase sequence on them. But I don't know, I've always found it kind of boring, so I didn't do the chase thing on the JP side of the game until like Sid Reigns came out on Global. I did try the whole chase thing. I just find it pretty boring. So at this moment, I'm just looking at free multi-draws on his banners. All right, friends, so again, let me know all your wonderful comments down below. And until next time, friends, good luck and have a good one.